Hello, AP Environmental Science. Paulus here. Purpose of this video, as always, is to give students who were unable to get everything written down in class an opportunity to get those finished up. Additionally, and most importantly, with a number of kids that have been out recently, to give them an opportunity to get these notes down, not only for the points that I award for them, but also for the knowledge they will gain in doing so. All right, remember, please, all class notes need to be in Cornell note style, and they need to be numbered. Additionally, because this is a video and you can pause the video, I will be moving through these slides a lot faster than I do in class. And of course, you can pause the video if you're still writing or typing things down. I will warn you when I am moving ahead. All right, here we go. All right, so normally I have you guys do the case study, but it all really comes down to how many pages I'm lecturing on versus you taking notes on. And in the case of Chapter 9, it made more sense for me to cover the case study. Case study is talking about disappearing bees, and they are disappearing at a really disturbing rate. Bees provide a really important ecosystem service in terms of pollination. And pretty striking, 70% of vegetable and fruit crops in Europe are pollinated by bees. And of course, if bees disappear and pollination needs to take place by the farmers, that will increase their costs, which will increase the cost for produce for Europeans. All right, so there is a disorder that's referred to as colony collapse disorder. And statistics for the United States over about the last, not the last 8 years, but an 8-year period from 08 to 15, a quarter to almost half of the bees in the United States abandoned their colony. All right, moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, extinction rate in human activities. Right now, the extinction rate is about 1,000 times the natural rate. Humans are, for the most part, to blame for this extinction rate. Prediction for the future is that will increase tenfold by the end of the century. And for those of you who have seen the movie Racing Extinction, remember one of the predictions is that unless we make some serious changes pretty quickly, potentially 50% of all living things on this planet will be gone by the end of the century. If you are lucky enough to be able to live until your mid-90s, that would mean that in your lifetime, 50% of the species that exist today will have disappeared. Hopefully, you spend your life or part of it making sure that does not happen. A definition of biological extinction is simply when you can find no more organisms of that species on Earth. I learned about something new yesterday, a term functional extinction. Functional extinction is simply when there are not enough organisms for that species to recover, or all of the organisms left are relatives, and of course, if they breed, that would increase genetic mutations for the bad part, or that we suspect that it's extinct because we haven't been seen this organism in some time. And there are many organisms that are still alive that are functionally extinct and will never recover. Basically, they're doomed. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Natural extinction rate is 1 species per million. I looked it up today. There are 8.7 million species on the planet that we know of, which basically means that the natural extinction rate would be about 8.7 species disappearing each year. And of course, because the rate is 1,000 times higher, that would mean that we're talking about 8,700 species disappearing each year. I picked two of these. Mass extinction. You learned about a little of this in the movie. We have had 5 mass extinctions. Basically, the definition is lots of organisms dying in a short period of time. Most of the mass extinctions have been caused by global environmental changes. Remember from the movie, the commonality in all the mass extinctions is a dramatic increase in carbon dioxide, although we've never seen as much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere as we do now. And provides opportunities for new species to move into vacated habitats. That sounds like a good thing, but it also could be a bad thing if there are endangered or threatened species that have survived and are in those habitats. These invasive species could compete with them and actually cause more extinctions. So don't look at that last bullet as a positive. It really kind of depends on the ecosystem we're talking about. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Please use this as an opportunity to practice a bit with your notes. What is the disappearance of the European honeybee so alarming? If you can't remember, take a look back at number 2. Yeah, it's because 70% of European agriculture, fruits, and vegetables relies on these bees. How much faster than normal is today's extinction rate, and what is the prediction for the end of the century? Yeah, it's 1,000 times faster than normal currently, and we believe by the end of the century it'll be 10,000 times faster than normal. What are 2 characteristics of mass extinctions? Take a look at number 8 if you're not sure. We've had a few of them. Lots of organisms dying short period of time. Provide opportunities for species to move into vacated habitats. And primarily it's caused by global environmental change. All right, biggest cause for mass extinctions? Us. It's unfortunate, but true. Primarily habitat destruction, degradation, using resources, because remember, many of the resources, minerals, and fossil fuels have to come out of the ground, and a large ecological footprint. What's the problem? Ecosystem services that we rely on will be damaged and or destroyed. Most damaging human activities. Basically, we're eliminating, damaging, fragmenting diverse ecosystems. Biggest ones that come to mind are the rainforests. Those are the most diverse regions on land. And then also ocean acidification is damaging coral reefs, and overfishing is removing lots of species from those areas. Coral reefs are basically synonymous to tropical rainforests within the ocean. So the most diverse places on the planet that remain are being hit very, very hard. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So endangered species. So few of them remain that they soon could become extinct. Threatened or vulnerable basically means they're on their way to becoming endangered. Pick 2 of these. The last bullet point, some of the characteristics that make them more vulnerable. Many are K-selected, which means that they have very few offspring. They don't breed as often. They have long gestation periods, which means it takes longer for the female that's pregnant to actually give birth. They care for their young for a long period of time. They require large geographic regions to feed and or to raise their young. There are more characteristics, but K-selection species is a big one. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I just read this. couple examples of characteristics and examples of organisms. There will be a whiteboard question for later. Of course, you're probably not using whiteboards, so try to remember one of these specifically. Reasons to save species, ecosystem health, ecosystem services, economics. It can take millions of years for nature to recover from mass extinctions, which of course means, the world that you see and your children see and your grandchildren see will be nothing close to the one that I saw back in the 70s and 80s. It's just the right thing to do. Many of these species were here before humans were, and they deserve an opportunity to live their lives just like we do. Human existence is a very selfish thing, but it doesn't have to be. We can coexist with these creatures. We can enjoy them. We can see them in person. We can hike and be in nature, which increases our overall health and feeling. It doesn't have to be the way that it is, but we need to make some changes. Move it ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What's the largest two impacts we are having on ecosystems and species? I want to take a look back at number 9 and 11. Yeah, habitat fragmentation, destruction, degradation. You got it. If you can remember, list one species that you read about and the characteristic that makes it vulnerable. Take a look back at number 14. What's one reason we should try and save species? They deserve to live. Yeah. It's going to take a long time for biodiversity to rebuild itself, millions of years. And ecosystem services could be damaged, which affect human economics. And I think it's just the right thing to do. We have the technology to live different ways. We just simply need to use that knowledge. All right, orangutans. $61,000 might sound like a lot, but these are a K-selected species. There's that nasty palm oil. It's really tough to eliminate it completely from your life. It's really easy to eliminate it from your diet. If you read the ingredients, which you should be doing, and it just says simply vegetable oil, you should suspect that they're trying to hide something. Soy oil, soybean oil, canola oil, corn oil. Those are all oils that are not palm. They have the lowest birth rate for animals, which is making it really difficult for them to come back. And in 20 years, these beautiful animals might be gone. And if you want to see a funny, humorous movie with orangutans in it, oh God, what was it called? I'll look it up on my phone. It was a Clint Eastwood movie. Clyde was the name of his orangutan. Right turn, Clyde. If you watch that movie or watch that scene, you might crack up. What was the movie called? Oh, yeah. The movie was called Every Which Way But Loose. It's a great movie. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so what do we need to do? We need to establish and enforce national environmental laws, international treaties, create protective wildlife areas, stop damaging habitats that are important to these creatures, care, get involved. And getting involved can be demonstrating, like these individuals in the picture. Getting involved can simply be raising your family the right way, reading ingredients, voting for lawmakers that are going to do what you want to do, um, talking about it with people. It's an awkward conversation to have. It is. But, if you want the world for yourselves and your kids and your grandkids, assuming you choose to have children, to be anything like the environment or the world that you've had in your childhood or your parents had or your grandparents had, you gotta make environmentalism part of your life and conservation part of your life. Examples: CITES, which was formed in 1975. 181 countries agree to not trade endangered species. Also, the Convention on Biodiversity. Just pick two of these for the Convention on Biodiversity. Excuse me. 196 countries, not the United States, at least as of 2015 when this book was written. Hopefully, the new administration, the Biden administration, has ratified this. One negative about the Convention on Biodiversity is that it lacks enforcement mechanisms, which means that a country can say, oh, yes, we'll ratify it. But if they're caught not doing what they say they're going to do, there are no penalties. And that is a big problem with a lot of the global environmental laws or agreements, is that there's no penalty if you don't do it. Oh, we're really struggling economically right now. We really, really need to develop that forest. Our people are starving. They need to cut down the rainforest and raise cattle or grow crops. Sorry, there needs to be more mechanisms in place to make sure that if a country has agreed to do something, they're held accountable to do it. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, the Endangered Species Act. This is a national law for the United States to identify and protect endangered species in the U.S. and globally. About 7,000 species currently that are endangered. Create recovery programs. And if you want to really get involved and make this a part of your life, be a wildlife biologist. Be an ecologist. Get a job with the World Wildlife Fund, the Nature Conservancy, the Sierra Club, environmental organizations that need scientists to help come up with plans to enable these organisms to come back. The only federal agency that is not held accountable for jeopardizing endangered or threatened species is our Defense Department. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. I mean, how are you going to be a country that actually supports bringing species back nationally and globally if you can't protect your sovereignty. Does it work? 90% of the Endangered Species Act protected species are actually recovering. So, yeah, it works. Yay, USA. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, list 3 ecosystem services that species provide to humans for free. You might want to take a look back at number 17. Yeah, they control pests, they produce oxygen, flood protection, primarily for maintaining soil integrity and root structure, which helps reduce erosion, uh, erosion control, compounds found in medicines, a lot of which are found in rainforests, and joy. I mean, just going out in nature and being one with it and creating mental and sometimes even physical health as a result of that, from just being in a beautiful place and experiencing it alone or with loved ones or with your family. What's one thing you individually can do to help protect species? Take a look at number 18. Yeah, vote for legislators that care about it. Vote for legislation that protects sensitive areas with sensitive species in it, and get involved. Make it a part of your life. And I'm not saying you have to be a scientist, but pay attention. Living in a city with a family and so many things going on, it's so easy to ignore what's happening around you. Make it a part of your daily life to pay attention to things and to talk to people and to pay attention to what your legislators are doing, and feel good about it. You should. If you're spending time that you normally wouldn't trying to protect what's left, feel good about it. And maybe that'll give you a couple extra years on top of the end of your life. 2 characteristics of the Endangered Species Act of 73. Take a look at number 20. "7,000 species have been identified and are being protected. Come up with recovery programs, good. They created the National Marine Fisheries Service to handle oceanic and marine endangered species, and hold federal agencies and departments accountable for to make sure that they don't endanger species or threaten species, with the exception of the Defense Department. Wildlife refuges. We're going to abbreviate. First one in Florida. Most are wetland areas, which are disappearing rapidly. Wildlife refuges are habitats for 25% of endangered or threatened species. Mining, drilling for oil, off-road vehicle use is illegal in 60% of refuges. Oh, pardon me. Legal. That's a huge conflict of interest. You need to elect some legislators that are going to get that changed. I can deal with the off-road vehicle use a little bit because some of these people appreciate the fact that they can actually ride their vehicles in nature. Mining and oil drilling, that is such a conflict of interest. Sorry, I misread that. It's been a long week. Other ways to protect: seed banks, keep these seeds so you can plant them in areas. Visit botanical gardens. There's one at Sac State that is in between the entrance of Sac State and J Street. It's a beautiful one. I forget the name of it. Actually proposed to my wife in a botanical garden in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. I should probably remember that. Visit zoos and aquariums. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So how do zoos and aquariums protect? They collect eggs. They have captive breeding programs. They can artificially inseminate females, which is part of the captive breeding program. The overall goal is to raise these creatures in captivity and put them back into the wild. But they must have between 100 and 500 organisms in order to do this. So zoos and aquariums don't have a whole lot of money. So please, if you're ever in the Monterey area, I know it's expensive, but please visit that aquarium. Please go to the Sacramento Zoo. They don't make a lot of money. And if you're not interested in going, consider just donating or becoming a member who donates annually to help keep these available. Because remember, like you're seeing in the movie Racing Extinction, seeing these creatures is enough to inspire some people to get involved and to help protect them. And zoos and aquariums do this type of thing. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Two methods other than wildlife refuges that are used to preserve biodiversity on Earth. Take a look at number 23 if you can't remember. Yeah, seed banks, botanical gardens, farms, zoos, aquariums. Describe the specifics about captive breeding. Take a look at number 25 if you can't remember. All right, that is the overall goal is to get them back into the wild, but they must have populations in captivity of between 100 and 500 organisms to make those organisms viable in the wild. All right, precautionary principle and an example of that. So when you know you need action, act to prevent or reduce the harm. Prevent exposure to bad chemicals in our air, water, and food. All right, can it be applied to other animals and plants? Act early. Don't wait until the species is nearly extinct because it might be too late. So target threatened and endangered species rather than waiting until they are endangered. Sorry, trying to figure out dinner with a wife. Difficult questions. Should we focus on protecting species or protecting entire ecosystems? That's a tough one. We have limited resources. What's most important? How do we decide what species get the attention? Do we focus on the red panda because it's such an adorable creature? Or do we focus on organisms that are more important within their ecosystem or organisms that provide ecosystem services? That's a really, really tough question. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so again, what can you do? Pick two of those. All right, so extinction rates. Why aren't we great at doing that? It's a long process. It's 1 in a million per year. So we believe that there are about 8.7 million species. It's kind of contradictory to what I said earlier. We've only identified 2 of them. And if you don't know about the species or know enough about them, it's really difficult to predict how important they are. I'm moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And like you care, the wife agrees that take and bake pizza is the answer for tonight. All right, so what do? We really need to quantify, collect data with units, measure it. Habitat loss really is tied to extinction rates. Some ideas about how environmental policy begins. When you, citizens, or interest groups, environmental groups, or communities, or corporations want solutions to issues. Steps in environmental policy. You got to identify the problem. You got to research the related science, which means you need scientists. Maybe some of you someday will be those scientists. How cool would it be to be a scientist involved in saving species and getting paid for it and guaranteeing that you, well, helping to guarantee that your work that you're getting paid for is going to make the world a better place for your family, family friends, and all the rest of the humans that are coming after you. Got to create a solution, which probably is going to take some negotiation. Monitor how well it works, more science, and then adjust the policy as needed. So again, working with governmental agencies and science cooperation, which is at the forefront with COVID right now, government and economics and science working hand in hand to try to help ensure that we're going to make it through this pandemic. Moving ahead in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, what's the basic idea of the precautionary principle? I want to take a look back at number 27. Yeah, you got to act to prevent or reduce harm when the evidence indicates that it's necessary. What's one difficult question when determining how to protect species? Take a look at number 29. Yeah, do we protect individual species or the entire ecosystem that they live in? How do we decide which species gets attention? The ones that, are on websites, or the ones that provide ecosystem services, or the species that nobody knows about, but still it deserves to live on the planet? Or what types of habitats are most important? Where should we focus our attention and our money? What's the problem with calculating extinction rates? Take a look at number 31. It's a long process. It takes a long time to collect the data, analyze the data. We've only identified 2 of the potentially 8.7 million species on the planet that we think exist. And if we don't know about these species, how are we going to know how they are involved in their individual ecosystems? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the notes for Chapter 9. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in class.